Hey guys, this is Big Country again with On the Run. We're finally out here camping. In that last video we talked a little bit about this new Weaver diesel heater we got. So we told you we'd give you a review once we got out here, so that's kind of what we're doing. We do have camp set up. I've got this little Coleman instant tent. So far I love this thing. This is the first time we've actually used it, but setup was just a breeze. Highly recommend it so far. Hopefully we'll see how it does long term as far as repelling water and all that stuff, but the setup was great. We're kind of glamping out here. We have all the air mattresses in there for all of us and the kids, so it should be good. But as far as the Weaver goes, I've got this set up here. As you can see, I've just got it piped in to the bottom of this door. And actually inside it is very warm, but so far it's running good. I did have some issues I was maybe going to share with you all about this as far as the setup of the cables. I showed you in the last video, it comes with maybe 2 feet, 1.5 feet of wire with the machine, so that's as short as it is. I knew I wanted to run it. I was hoping to run it to the Jackery out of the back of my truck, but that didn't work out. Mike and Tim, they were able to run theirs off their Jackery. For some reason, I'm not able to run mine off my Jackery. It keeps tripping the 10 volt cigarette plug breaker in there. So we had to improvise. Obviously, I'm running it to the back of the truck here. And it's kind of a mess in here, but I have that little power accessory panel that I had put in here, which thankfully I did because it's working out great for this. I should be able to run the battery, run the diesel heater off the battery all night, no problem. A buddy of ours kind of tested it out and it didn't drain the battery enough, still cranked the vehicle, no problem. So that's going to be my plan B for now. I'm not exactly sure why ours is tripping the Jackery, if it's a little bit of something with the Jackery or the heater, but we're going to do a little bit of flip-flopping when we get back home and see if it's the Jackery or if it's the Weaver heater. But anyway, the setup is going to work just fine. Just another thing to think about that I had a problem with, I had ordered some of the cigarette plug with a 20-foot cord from Amazon, and it was probably like I don't know if there's a 20 gauge. It was very light. I don't know the exact number. I ended up having to go to 14 gauge is what works for Tim's and for mine. 14 gauge was didn't cause a problem, and other than tripping the Jackery. So that was a couple of things that's important to know. Use 12 or 14 gauge for an extension. If you're going to run it and you need the extension, just keep in mind it does draw a little bit enough power to where you need to have probably at least the 14 gauge over a 20-foot length. But yeah, everybody's really excited. It's like 19 degrees tonight, I think. It was 19 degrees last night. Mike and Shelly stayed warm in their rooftop tent, so I think it's going to be a great thing to have on these winter camping trips. So we're all very excited to try it out tonight. So that's ours. Let's go take a look at another setup that we have on Tim's rig tonight.
All right, so let's take a look at what we've got going on over here. So same heater, same setup as far as all that is concerned, nothing different on that. However, we are able to run this particular one off of a Jackery 1000 V2 to be specific, which we have piped in here. It does, one thing we did notice is that it does draw about 135 watts at startup. Now, currently this has been running for about, 15-20 minutes. It did just kind of kick back into a higher gear there. And you can see, I don't know if you can see it or not, but we're running right at 100 watts right now. It did drop it back down, I'd say, I think it was down to like 30 watts just a little bit ago after it had kind of warmed up. So I put this, I bought a little thermometer that'll measure the temperature in here. And then I have a sensor that I've left in the back of the Jeep there that'll just measure ambient temperature outside. So we'll kind of get to see what the difference actually is as it works overnight. So excited to see how that does on this. This is a nice heavy thick canvas on this Free Spirit trailer here. So it'll be interesting to see how it does, but definitely looking forward to it. I think Mike's setup last night, he was able to run I think just off of the calculations that he did after looking at the fuel consumption, he should be able to go a solid 12 hours on just under a gallon of diesel. So these things are very efficient when looking at how much fuel you'd actually have to carry with you out here on the trail. So yeah, we'll check back in the morning, see if we froze to death or if we stayed nice and cozy. All right, just a quick update here. We did get an error code E05 on this one, and it was because we believe it was because we were using this 16-foot 4-inch pipe, but I was not stretching it out the full 16 feet. And so when it's bunched up, it's actually quite small in there. And I think we're getting some back pressure on it. So it wasn't running right. So we were able to just snake the pipe in through this door access on the back, and it's been running fine since. So we did elevate it off the ground a little bit just because kind of dry out here and playing it safe, but we weren't having any issues with that. We were just doing that as a precautionary measure. So anyway, just a quick update that we did change the setup ever so slightly on this, and we'll see how that does. All right, guys, we're back. We're actually back home now. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, we did not get a chance to get some footage the following morning while we were out there to show you guys some of the heaters in action. But nonetheless, we want to take some time now that we're back home and talk about some of the key takeaways from the heaters. The long story short, they worked, and they really worked great. So if you're just wanting to know that right up front, that's the takeaway, that we did like how they performed.
Definitely worth buying.
Absolutely. For the price, you can't beat it. Really, the only kind of hiccup that I had on my end, which is I showed you guys earlier in the video, where I had an error code shortly after we were filming my initial setup that I had, and we found out it was because I was using the same hose that Mike was using, but mine was still in the factory position where it was really scrunched up, and because I didn't need a long run, I just happened to have it, and so I was just using it. But when it's in this scrunched up position, it really closes in on the inner diameter of that hole, and so it's actually like running a slightly smaller hose than what it comes from the factory with. So I was actually creating a restriction by using this hose that I didn't even need. And then once I got rid of that, all those troubles went away, and it ran for nearly almost 16 hours straight after that. Now, I did refuel in that time, but nonetheless, the heater ran continuously for about 16 hours. At one point in the late morning hours of Saturday, when the sun was just getting up into above the tree line, it got so hot in the tent, I actually had to cut it off altogether. And it was still only, I think, about 35 degrees at that time outside, but that's how hot it got in there. So my thermometer system completely failed. The outdoor sensor quit reading sometime overnight. I guess it got too cold. I think it was somewhere around 17-ish degrees.
Yeah, between 17 and 20.
17 and 20 that night, yep. And the outdoor sensor, I guess, couldn't keep up with that. But the indoor sensor kept working, and I was running in that Free Spirit tent that you guys saw roughly 55 to 60 degrees consistently all night long. And so considering that it's 20 degrees outside and it's nearly 60 degrees inside the tent, it was very comfortable. Yep. We all slept pretty well in that. I wouldn't want to do it without the sleeping bags in that kind of conditions, but coupled with the heater and the sleeping bags, we were all comfortable and had no issues. So really, takeaways on my end is, if you need a long run, that's fine. Just make sure you stretch it out and get that inner diameter to that actual, in this case, is a 4-inch, which is what you need to run if you want to go a long run. Just make sure you get it to that full opening there. But what about you? Yeah,
ours was pretty much the same story. I think you saw in the video, ours is, we have a 10-person, I think it's 8 or 10-person Coleman instant tent. Very thin walls. And for the first part of the night, I left all the doors and windows cracked open. I was thinking I would need it for ventilation to prevent the condensation. And so we ran that way on level 4 until about 3 o'clock in the morning. I got cold, but it wasn't a result of the room. I had to get up anyway. I checked on my fuel, and then I went ahead and just cranked it all the way up to 10 from 3 until we woke up at 7 in the morning, and it was stayed nice and toasty in the tent. I did go ahead and zip up the windows as well at 3 o'clock. Didn't have any problem with condensation. So I think because of how dry that heat coming off of this heater is, it's not like propane where propane would give you more condensation if you were burning it in the tent. This is just a very dry heat, so I don't think condensation was ever an issue. So I zipped up all the windows for at least 4 hours. Had no problem with moisture in the tent. And yeah, like I said, it was thin. It did very well heating the air in there. My only problem was I got cold because I was sleeping on an air mattress, just from Walmart or Amazon, wherever. No insulation value, thinking that the air gap would keep me warm enough. But my backside was definitely cold on the air mattress. I probably, if I had my Thermarest pad down and had that insulation under me, would not have had any problem. So that's my takeaway is as far as air temperature, it was great. Still have to have that barrier between you and the ground to keep the underside of you warm. So, but yeah, as far as the heater goes, it ran wide open.
So you ran it off the truck too, right?
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, I ran it off my truck battery because I couldn't get it to run off my Jackery. Ran it off my truck. I did crank up the truck before we went to bed just for 10 minutes, just to let it charge the battery. And in the morning, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, I started the truck up no problem. So it definitely didn't drain the battery to any considerable amount.
Yeah, good. Yep. We're still going to try to get to the bottom of why his heater won't run off of his Jackery. Both Mike and I ran our heaters, again, same heaters, same Jackeries. For whatever reason, yours is just not liking it, and we just got to get to the bottom of that. But the other two did run off the Jackeries that whole time. So you can do that.
Yeah, but according to the numbers, it should have tripped, right?
It should have,
yeah. It should have tripped the Jackery.
We were starting off, when it's cold, it will start off pulling about 135 watts off that Jackery, which it shouldn't do that. I think 120 is really your cutoff on that, which would be about 10 amps. But it did it. It took it like a champ, and it kept on going. So I was impressed with that. Now it doesn't run that high that long. It's just to get started. I mean, a couple minutes tops. And then during that early stages of warming up, it would fluctuate up and down just a little bit. But for the most part, it stayed well under 100. And then once it got up to temp, it would stay somewhere around 30-ish, watts being pulled on it. So yeah, it was fine on that. But the Jackery did do well on that. Let's see.
As far as takeaways for me, big takeaways, lessons that I learned that I'll help you out with. If you're going to put the extension on it, like we said, make sure it's a heavier, at least 14 gauge. I ended up with 12 gauge over just 12 feet. I thought it was 20, but it was just 12 feet of 12 gauge wire. 14, I think, is what Tim's running, no problems. So just make sure you're aware of the gauge of the wire that you're getting. If you're ordering on Amazon, pay a special note of attention to that detail, because it will give you an error code if it's not allowed to draw enough, carrying enough power through your line.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find the links for where I bought my plug, which I think this is the same one that I had. And these are working great. I know that you got one locally, and it's a piece of junk. And so that's something you're going to run into, and some of that's just going to be trial and error, hit and miss type stuff. But if I can find the link, we bought a whole bunch of these years ago. If I can still find that link, I'll try to post it in there. But we'll see if we can find that for you guys.
One other thing that I would say, when I was watching other videos, a lot of people were talking about priming the pump, priming. And I would have tried to prime this pump, except Mike just cranked his up before anyone else, and he just, once it was full and ready to run, he pushed start, and he just let it run through a cycle. I was skeptical that it would work, but sure enough, it's basically primed itself and started up without having to do anything. So startup is actually extremely easy. I mean, we all did the same thing, filled it up and pushed start. It is probably a 5-minute process of it. You hear the fan kick in, then you think it might not be doing anything. Eventually, you'll start hearing the click. It'll click for a while, and then you'll see a little bit of smoke coming out, and it starts up. So startup does not have to be complicated. It's truly as easy as plugging it in, having it full of diesel, have the air and the exhaust mounted correctly, and then push start, and it does everything.
Yeah, super simple. Yeah. Fuel consumption, probably the last thing. Gauging off of what I was running on mine, I could comfortably run for 12 hours straight on level 4, which is what I ended up running overnight. I was on level 4 for most of the night. I did bump it up first thing in the morning, just when that initial chill was setting in. I bumped it up to a 5 just for a little bit, but just gauging off of the fuel consumption that I was using, easy 12 hours at a level 4. Did you pay attention to yours?
Yeah, when I got up at 3 a.m., I had been running, I believe, on 4 up until that point, and it was about halfway. So I just went ahead and topped it off, and then I ran actually on high from 3 until we started taking our tent down, probably around 10 o'clock. And by that point, I was probably down to 3/4 of a tank. So.
Oh wow, yeah, good. Yeah, so real efficient, and they worked. I mean, I think they're normally around $130 on Amazon. You really can't beat it.
No.
I mean, it saved the day on that trip.
All of us said that of all the equipment, this was the one thing that we would never go without.
Yeah.
For sure, on a winter camping trip.
Yeah, cool. Well, let us know in the comments if you guys have tried these things, if you tried different brands, whatever. We'd love to hear about your feedback on those things. So be sure to leave comments if you have questions on it. Leave us a comment and we'll get back to you on it. If you like this video, be sure to like it, hit that subscribe button, hit the little bell for those notifications. You know how the drill goes. Just do all those things. And we'll be back with some more interesting topics. So we'll see you guys on the next one.
See ya.